Just 49 days since Jordan Caruso became your Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup champion. But the wheels of time wait for no one, and today the road to crown a new world champion begins in earnest. It's time to go racing for the 2023 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup qualifying series. Hello everyone, delighted to have your company here on RaceSpotTV as we get underway for what is going to be a very quick 6-round championship. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to have your company alongside. Don't forget you can follow along with live timing and scoring today by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing2 to follow along with your favorite team and drivers over the course of the qualifying series. 49 days ago, wow, what a final round that we had at Monza as Jordan Caruso became the champion. Ultimately, plenty of intrigue was had for second spot as well, as we saw Zach Campbell as well as Sebastian Job have to overcome some adversity in their quest to try and become second. Now though, 15 of those drivers make their way into the Contender Series later this year, and of course we're very excited about the fact that we're going to have the potential of some new faces to join the fun as well. Let's talk about the schedule then, because it's going to be a really interesting one. Of course, just like last year, we are going to be visiting some tracks that we don't necessarily visit too often. Not in terms of the tracks themselves, it's the layouts that are a little bit more unfamiliar. Hockenheimring National A. I mean, how often do we see the shortened layout of Hockenheimring? Silverstone International, that one is a little bit more typical before a trip to the Red Bull Ring National. Forget turns 2, 3, down through Schlossgold. Instead, shortcut out of turn number 1 and in towards the final sector of the Grand Prix loop. Watkins Glen Classic is that more of an oval sort of a round that the drivers will have to contend with, and of course then the round that sees us go to the Nürburgring, the final of the unfamiliar layout at the Sprint Strecke Imola Grand Prix, of course. Somewhat more normal, but we know just how difficult it truly is to pass at that track. Let's talk about what we've got in store and what we've left off from, because 30 drivers competed in the 2023 Porsche Esports Supercup, and only the top 15 retain eligibility. Drivers 16th through 30th are eligible to race in the Contender Series later on this year, in addition to 5 drivers that may earn Contender Series status by competitions in regional Porsche Esports Series. Right now, we're focused on 6 races to find the fastest 15, the 15 that can gain the most points. They advance to the Contender Series. 35 total drivers go to battle before 15 spots and 15 World Championship licenses for the 2024 Porsche Esports Supercup will be on the line. We say 15, but ultimately these numbers are provisional, because as we take a look at the championship standings, note how there are some strong names on the right-hand side that are eligible for Contender Series status that we may not see return to the series. Same thing could be said for the left side as well. Who knows, with sim racing being in ever flux, what the future of the competition and the drivers holds, but ultimately it goes down to Oskari Rene as the final driver to have secured the license. Only 10 points clear of Jamie Fluke, one of the ever-presents of the championship. Gustavo Ariel, the victory at Monza in the final round of the season was key to him being able to leapfrog his way in. He's watching on and already joining us in the RaceSpotTV YouTube chat. Your eyes are not deceiving you, by the way. Gianni Vecchio did indeed have -5 points, but that was because he missed most of the season. Injured early, got involved in some incidents, even while driving injured, and so unfortunately -5 for him. But you could see that Alexei Nesov, one of the Urano drivers that, along with Sam Koiter, potentially we should expect to see maybe having a crack at the championship over the course of the season. Hockenheim's an interesting one to get things underway, because turn 1 on the start, treacherous at the best of times, if we're being perfectly honest. And with standing starts, we always know it is going to be somewhat difficult. Qualifying underway right now. Most of the drivers have already set their qualifying times. It's Matti Siepela that currently has the best of the times, of course, formerly of Kova. And so it will be interesting to see how the rest of the times will end up stacking up. Here's Leon Rudiger. Rudiger in the Redragon U-Race car, heading his way towards the line. Let's ride around for a lap here at the Hockenheimring in the alternate layout that we're using. In towards the opening corner. You can see him try and maximize on the left, straddle the curb, and then really send it as deep and aggressively as you can. Carry that momentum into the regular turn number 2, braking just after the 150, down through into second gear. Try and clip that inside curve and sweep that momentum out through onto that back straightaway. You're not going to run all the way through into the heavy hairpin, though. Instead, it's a little bit more of a gradual hairpin in many ways. You see those brake markers off to the left that funnel you on to the right. Clipping a bit of the grass is Rudiger in this 23 machine. And then it's really tight, actually, on the apex as you funnel your way in towards that Mercedes-Benz arena. Onto the anchors you will go, trying to be very careful not to hit the sausage curb on the inside, and then sweeping through into the final sector. Short shifting to avoid the rear end stepping out under traction, and now this is where you got to be brave. Close to the wall on the left-hand side, and really commit into the arena. You can use all of that track, but don't go off into the gravel. We've seen so many drivers come as Cropper here through the Sachs curve, and the 23 is able to navigate it nicely, but the wheel sawing back and forth, you can tell it is not an easy lap by any means. It's only going to be this one attempt that the 23 is going to get. We have 26 cars out there. You do not want to be towards the back. Nice and tidy through those final couple of corners, really maximizing it as well. But with a 1:24.8 being the benchmark, half a second off, he slides up to 12th. Not necessarily where I think he would have wanted to be. And so the first cycle of qualifying is in the books, and it's Matti Siepola that has a rather commanding pole position, all things considered. A tenth of a second. That doesn't sound like much, but when we run these shortened configurations, it is much larger of a gap than I think many would expect. It's not a long road to the World Championship, but it begins just 49 days after Jordan Caruso was crowned the champion. Let's run you down through the starting grid and see how they'll line up at Hockenheim. And so Matti Siepola grabs the first pole position of the season. He'll be alongside Dino Lombardi, while Jakob Maciejewski and then Josh Thompson line up in third and fourth positions. We're going to see Luke McEwen in the Apex Racing Team machine, lining up back in fifth spot. He's got Carlos Fenelosa in the Altus machine for company. Look at Chris Lullum in the red line car rolling along inside of Nicholas Verone. You're going to see Maxence Godino, another one of the Apex Racing Team contingent, trying to qualify their way into the championship from back in 9th positions. Bernardo Faria in 10th, Nicholas Rubelar 11th, and then Leon Rudiger will line up back in that 12th position. 13th, we'll see Parker White in an Apex Racing Academy car. He's got Kane Halliburton alongside, Lauren Benzo, and then Sean Campbell 15th and 16th with David Bosca, and then Dylan Burse 17th and 18th positions. Rolling through the field, David Toth, former podium sitter in the Dallara, Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship Series alongside with Martin Kabzak, Rasmus Christensen, Przemysław Lemonet, Cody Deeth, and then Dino Filippo. We get into the cars with no times on the board. Michael Yanni and Neto Nascimento round out the field of 26 that get ready to do battle. Always interesting to take a look through the grid and to see where drivers stack up for the first race. Let's not forget there are multiple splits of competition going on as well, and so it does mean that points are on offer for drivers not just featured here today. Engines rev though for the first time this season. The road to the World Championship is underway. 22 laps of racing and instantly almost 4 wide. In towards the opening corner they will go behind. It's a great start from Matti Siepola to lead them through that opening right-hander. Behind him, Dino Lombardi, Josh Thompson, and then Luke McEwen. The two of the Brits fighting side by side. They've got to watch out behind. Carlos Fenelosa lurking dangerously in the background. Safely through turn 2. They will funnel through as well. Maximize your momentum. And Matti Siepola now watches in the rearview mirror to see if anyone's going to try and go aggressive into that shortened hairpin. Look how inviting it is as well. Big sends, but no real opportunities, I think. Lullum and Fenelosa squabble. Lullum in the red line car, hung out to dry on the outside. If he can hold it, it becomes the inside, but it's so difficult to do so. Through the arena section, Godino up the inside now. Ofaria, single file, finally they will get. And now the draft and the dirty air starts to play its part. Riding over the shoulder of Faria, in through that opening corner. It was almost 3 wide further back, but after the 4 wide moment, they did get it sorted out. Filippo Lemonet, both of them going for some rallycross action. It's not a 911 Dakar that they've got. They save it in the nick of time. End of the opening lap. Siepola will lead from Lombardi. No change at the very front. Swap around though behind. Thompson jumps McEwen as well as Maciejewski. Oh, more dramas there for the likes of David Bosga as well. I was about to say that we had a relatively tidy opening lap, but right on cue, drama unfolded. So we will grab a look then at those replays in a few moments' time, but lap 2 of 22. Ken Halliburton, the only driver, off and in towards pit lane. 5 cars starting to stretch their legs as Fenalosa still under fire from Lulham. Behind, Godino has to watch out as the U-Race BR Redragon machine lurks menacingly in the rearview mirrors. Fenalosa holds on just inside of that drafting range, but in danger of losing it if they continue to fight like they have so far. Let's grab a look then at what happened between Lemonek and Heuer. Lemonek and Felipe just get tangled in and amongst each other. It's like once they got connected, they did not want to let go. We'll grab another look at it from slightly earlier if we can, and let's just see how around the outside as Dylan Burst, the young Aussie, sweeps. It cuts the nose off potentially of Lemonek, and from there was a bit of drama. Further drama as well for Sean Campbell, David Toth. That's Toth in the 3 that goes wide, but he's not the one that gets the worst of it. That was Kane Halliburton, and clearly the damage sufficient enough that he headed back towards the pit lane. Fastest lap punched in by Matti Siepola at the very front of the field. It's a 25.827. Behind him, a 25.926, so we're not talking large margins, and as we look up above, you can see the 2 leaders still within 5 car lengths or so of one another. Handful of drivers doing double duty in this race, let's not forget. Josh Thompson doing a 2-man effort in the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa alongside his teammate Ollie Steinbrat, and jumps out of that car into this, and we'll have to get back into that, you'd assume, pretty quickly. Must be a pretty stressful day for him. Up the inside for Dino Felipe as he tried to recover. That's Sean Campbell in that 24 representing the Race Clutch team, and well, the 2 come together on the exit. Felipe, day goes from bad to worse. I think plenty of these drivers have a similar sort of story to tell. What we saw a lot in the qualifying series last year was, I don't want to say drivers not really able to make passes, but drivers not wanting to make passes. The risk at some of these layouts that we're going to visit is so great that you can't get a move actually finished, and you leave yourself vulnerable to those trying to do other things. And so expect the fastest laps to continue coming from Siepola as the fuel begins to continue burning, but eventually the tire wear will start to play its part as well, and you would expect at some point it will equalize itself out. Weather conditions not too bad. Clear skies above means it's rather toasty, but 22 degrees Celsius in the air reflects 36 on the track, with 22 km/h gusts of winds to deal with as well. That's probably the more noticeable thing than anything for these drivers. With the type of equipment that we have in sim racing nowadays, load cell pedals requiring, anywhere from 50 to 90 kilograms of force, direct drive wheels that can make you feel like you're driving anything, no matter how much power, lack of power steering it has. There is a lot of detail offered in the feedback to these drivers, but only in the hardware. A lot of them don't really run motion, and for those that are asking about, or might wonder about virtual reality, that's not necessarily something we talk about too much as well. On board with the Drago Racing entry of Maciejewski, another one of those double dippers in terms of racing. And he is racing in a Porsche 911 GT3R, I will confirm, for iRacing 24 Hours of Spa. In through that opening corner, just watch the car. Watch the body language of those in front. You can see the right-hand side tires just launch into the air momentarily. It's all just about being able to maximize the traction off the corner in that situation. A handful of drivers doing a pretty good job with that. Got to be careful not to fight too hard, and that's what Lauren Benzo, Rasmus Christensen are doing. You've got the VG Racing Esports machine on the inside now. It's going to become the outside. Benzo's got the advantage, and Michael Yanni might try and take a peek at this one as well. The Apex Racing team car backs out of it initially. Corner tightens up, and that's where the opportunity will come. mounts the sausage curb on the inside, slightly unsettles the Apex Racing Team number 15, and Christensen should be able to grab that 8th spot for his own. There was a comment in our RaceSpotTV YouTube chat about the drivers who were not able to get representative laps on the board in qualifying, maybe being in a regular Porsche Carrera instead of the Spec GT3 Cup that we race. This road to the World Championship's quite fun as well, because it's 3 stages. Of course, this qualifying series, the Contender Series, and then that World Championship. The layouts in the Contender Series are almost the same as what we have here, and so that's going to mean that these drivers who make their way from the qualifying series have that experience, the racecraft understanding of what they'll need to do when they come to this track. They'll also understand the pressure of qualifying at these facilities. For the 15 or so drivers that make their way down from the Super Cup into the Contender Series, they've got a slightly different task on their hands. There is another battle. Rudinger and Rubelar this time. Rubelar has the inside and the opportunity to box out the 23, but the U-Race BR redragging cars want to try and hold as teammates. Faria and Rudinger would ideally be able to protect one another, but Rubelar's been able to get between the two of them. Rubelar in that Arnage competition entry swoops his way up into 10th spot. And as we work through the qualifying series, we also have to recognize the fact that we are going to have some of these drivers drop out. Some of the drivers from second split might work their way into this split. And the way the points are determined is based on strength of fields for races. So the I ratings matter. The higher the split you're in, the higher the points you can earn. Sounds logical. But winning split 1 gains you the most points. So Matti Siepler right now is ready to walk away with maximum points. The one thing that this series does not prepare the drivers for is the race format in the Contender Series, which mirrors what we have in the Super Cup, the Esports Super Cup, where we have the qualifying leading into the first race, we invert the top 8, and then we have a second race. And so understanding how that works, and in some ways, as Gustavo Ariel told me yesterday on the VCO Esports studio, understanding what it means in terms of, is Luke McEwen and Josh Thompson are going to swap around. The red line drivers seemingly a bit of a bottleneck, and McEwen not willing to hang around after already seeing his attempt at the 24 Hours of Spa end on lap number 1. Behind them, Parker White and Rudinger starting to fight as well. But yeah, talking to Gustavo Ariel, the thing that I really took from him was, at least one of the things when it came to this championship in particular, is the way that he was talking about understanding how the races actually worked at this level. You can go through the Contender Series, and he had great pace there, but it took him a few races to find his feet, and you know, just squeaking into the top 15, it goes to show just how important getting the first season under your belt can be. We talk about second season syndrome. It exists for a reason. It's starting to grow at the front, not just between McEwen and Lombardi for second and third, but also between Lombardi and Siepler. 1.2 odd seconds at the line between first and second. Maciejewski just continues to rather patient behind Josh Thompson. His teammate, by the way, Przemysław Leminek, the only driver to feed us a webcam, is trying to hunt down Dylan Burse. Leminek, former R8G competitor, has plenty of experience at this level. But in Drago Racing, it's a team full of familiar names, but with new surroundings. It's going to be interesting to see how they all get on. Nicholas Ferrone has been seemingly escorted off the track because he is down into now the 17th position in a, well, a paint scheme you're definitely not going to miss. That's for sure. Was it by himself or was he assisted? Oh, locked up the inside front. And once you're on grass, it is very much like ice. And tries to cut back into line in front of Cody Deeth, but never really going to happen. Right on board. And you just see other hands at work. Seemingly inside front's going to get locked up. Oh, and that grass definitely didn't help either. Slightly upsets the car. You see this snap to the left as the car tries to turn around on him. It's a good job to be able to hold it under control. So Thompson passed by McEwen. You can see the train runs all the way back really to Parker White in 12th. It's the first round of 6. Drivers don't necessarily want to put themselves in bad situations. We'll very much want to maximize points, but doesn't matter in this championship whether you're 1st or 15th. As long as you're in the top 15, you are eligible. You know, there's things that you can do to make yourself ineligible, but for the most part, drivers will become eligible for a Contender Series competition, the pro license, and then after you go through that, if you're part of the top 15 there, again, doesn't matter whether you're 1st or 15th, just got to make the show. And then, come 2024, the stakes are reset, the playing field equalized, and we go once again for $200,000 in the 2024 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. So that's exciting, plenty to look forward to. McEwen looking forward to see if he can catch up to Dino Lombardi. He's been able to get past one driver aggressively. Can he get past another? It's starting to check up at the back as Lemonette gets passed by Kaldick. And Dylan Burr starts to also just open up that margin behind, hoping not to worry about those in the rearview mirror. See Sean Campbell in that race clutch car. He might be the next to try and work on Lemonette. Look to the outside, Jinx back to the inside. And a driver so versatile across the different cars that we see him compete in. Trying to now make a run at a World Championship license. Doesn't matter whether you put Sean in a GT3, in a prototype. There's all sorts of things that could be going on. Almost halfway through this one, by the way. It's coming down to that period. Oh my goodness gracious me! Plenty of sends going on. Parker White alongside with Rudinger. And then you got Cody Deeth, Rasmus Christensen, Williams Esports and VG Racing managing to find a way to battle in and amongst themselves. White's been able to establish himself in front of Rudinger. And in through this final sector, you're going to see a move to the inside from Cody Deeth. He's going to spin himself. Almost made contact with the left rear quarter panel of Christensen. Wow. These drivers willing to fight a little bit more. Nascimento in the Davina Esports car. He slides up through into the 17th spot, 9 positions gained from where he started. Yanni's plus 12. Goes to show that qualifying's important, but it's not everything at this level. I-rating, not everything either. Cody Deeth, the number 1 car in terms of I-rating. But I-rating only tells you half the story. Once again, Nascimento up the inside. Gets through on Dylan Burst, holds that position. As the young Aussie who races some real-world cars down under finds his way to the inside now. The Brazilian Nascimento will try and close the door shut, but in that Door Esports car, young Burst is not going to give it up easy. Looks like a bit of contact. Nascimento shoved out of the lane. And that 19 able to slip on through. They are fighting like it is the final lap of the race, not the first, halfway through this race. Lemonette might lose out another position here as they work into that final sector. Whoa. He says no. Says no thank you, Sean Campbell. Oh, Sean Campbell's going to have a go at it, though. Now compromises Lemonette. Tight through Sachs. Oh, and then almost bumper to bumper on power down. End of lap 11. Halfway through, 15 odd minutes to go. It is still Seepola that leads, but now it's about 1.6 his advantage to Dino Lombardi. Got Luke McEwen, Josh Thompson, Machajewski, Fenelosa, Lullum, Godino, Faria, and then Rubilar. That's the top 10. Parker White is slowly but surely closing that margin. So half race distance. Does it mean that for Luke McEwen, there's a little bit of an impetus here. Is he going to feel that the ideal thing to do is to be getting past Lombardi, separating himself further from those behind? You can see Josh Thompson struggling to hold to those in front. How aggressive are they all going to be? Thompson is the best running of the red line cars, I will point that out. It's been an impressive job from him to be able to put aside some of the demons of this series. Former championship competitor, of course, but fair to say, did not always go his own way. So, on to lap 13 then. All but one still running. Halliburton, the only driver sitting on pit lane. McEwen within pixels. Within pixels of the back of Lombardi. On board with the Apex Racing Team machine. Can't afford to make a desperate move, but if you can set something up here, you gotta wonder. I've got to assume you can't be too patient. If these are points on the line, there's no guarantee in the rest of the season that you are going to find yourself in a situation with which you can fight. And so, don't want to leave yourself with too much work later on. Give yourself a bit of a buffer. And as little work to do as possible. I think that's the more important thing. Drivers like life to be simple. We all like life to be pretty simple at the end of the day. So Dylan Burse has dropped behind Cody Deeth as Deeth tries to recover his way back up to just behind Christensen where he was. Sean Campbell's gone in front of the 19, so the race clutch car making some moves as well. We are now on to the 14th lap of this race and are starting to see 2 seconds now. That gap growing at the very, very front. You can see Josh Thompson almost out of that drafting range. Not too worried about Matejewski behind just yet, but at some point that will become a bit of a concern. For Carlos Fenalosa, oh, it's interesting. For Altus, we've got a world champion now. What does that do to the team in terms of getting them excited? Of course, not just Caruso involved in last year's series, but Oscar Mangens and Simona Maria Marcheno as well. Both drivers will have to be a part of the contender series, unfortunately. For Oscar Mangen, just missed out actually, was relatively close. 17th in the championship for Marcheno. There were some highs, but a lot more lows than that. 27th for him. He's currently having a crack at the Turn Racing Grand Prix Series Championship qualifiers, which are running on Thursdays in the Dallara Iro 1. Slightly different sort of a challenge, if we're being honest, but expecting to see him back, of course, as I was mentioning in the contender series. On board with Chris Lullum, and while his red and blue machine is having some success, the red and black machine of Sean Campbell is now back down on the pit lane, unfortunately. Not sure what's happened to him, not sure what happened to David Toth, who's also on a flatbed and a one-way ticket towards the pit lane, but a couple of moments of drama. Let's pick up what happened to them. Sean Campbell lost it by himself, and then that's what happened to David Toth. Not necessarily sure there was much that Toth could do. We'll see what happened to Sean first. That's in through the corner on, is it power down? Yeah, it's on the curb as well. Just rear end gets spat around. One car squeaks on through. I think it was the 19, but David Toth, hard contact, and that's round 1 in the books. How easy things can change. Think you're doing all right, holding on to the car relatively calmly, and then suddenly, boom, you're running into the back of someone else. McEwen continues to pile on the pressure. Right in 3rd position, but you can see the slight different lines being taken. Slightly tighter for McEwen, maybe has a bit more grip in the tires. Lombardi struggling to hold as tight to some of these apexes. Not the only driver in that sort of issues. Thompson as well, seemingly a little bit loose and squirrely with track limits. Do have to have a talk about that at 17 incident points, which is iRacing's version of the automatic race control. You get a drive-through penalty. At 25, you get disqualified. You get 1 point every time you drive off the track. You can get anywhere from 0 to 4 points for car contact. Luke McEwen wants to get through without any of that, though. Space given from Lombardi through that shortcutted hairpin. And on corner exit, Lombardi a little bit loose on the rear. Not going to try and fight too hard. More concerned now about the fact that Josh Thompson is right on the bumper. 6/10 now, that margin between third and fourth position. Again, for Luke McEwen, now 3 seconds behind Matti Siepola. Does he have some of those off tracks to burn? Can he pull that advantage up? McEwen, former Redline driver, former Altus driver, has found a home at the Apex Racing team, and you can tell that he's feeling comfortable with that environment around him. So important at this level of sim racing to feel like you have that level of support from those that are not just pushing you to be the fastest that you can be, but pushing you to deliver for the rest of the team as well, so that they can get better as you can get better. Similar sort of situation for Redline, you'd think. Josh Thompson, Chris Lullum, fourth and seventh positions. I can read off the left-hand side of your screen. Of course, Max Benecke no longer with the team, and that left a relatively few Redline cars in the series for the very first time. We had Gianni Vecchio at the start, of course, but after his injury, broke his tailbone. I mean, come on, that's brutal at the end of the day. Tried to race through it in the opening couple of rounds, and if anything, made it worse. Still have Diogo Pinto, but to be left by himself in the series, he will have support from some of the other teams, that technical collaborations and alliances that build, but ultimately, teammates is a different situation. Thompson and Lullum will hope that they can make their way to the Contender Series. We'll see if Gianni Vecchio has an interest in coming back after what has been a rather interesting period. He's been live on Twitch a lot with the Redline Twitch channel, competing in the 24 Hours of Spa as well, where he at one point was not in the car, but his car was leading, so I guess technically that counts. Lullum and Fenelosa once again. This is going to be slightly separating 6th and 7th spots from the top 5, but Fenelosa going so defensive, can Chris Lullum pinch him tight? He really did try under the brakes. Fenelosa out wide, Lullum not enough of a door to squeak up the inside of, and into the arena section. Just barges his way on through, doesn't even ask, and as a result goes too deep, and Fenelosa, who saw it coming, scampers back up through to 6th. Look at that shot. You can see just how close to the wall that they truly do get. We're going to come to 4 to go. There's that Porsche Experience Center, Hockenheim, by the way, just inside of that final sector. Just saying, if Porsche wants to build an Experience Center over here in San Francisco, where I'm based, I will not complain about that. Over the line, 4 to go. Matti Siepola continues to run. It's been an impressive job so far for him. You can see some of those team affiliations on that left-hand side. Altus represented by Fenelosa, Redline, Thompson, Lullum, Maciejewski, the best of the Drago entries, McEwen, Godino, Yanni, excuse me, White, and the Apex Racing contingent. And good to see Parker White as well, the eNASCAR driver, who has been very much taking his role in the Apex Racing Academy seriously, which I mean to say that he is looking to grow. He is not looking to be a Zach Campbell, Kevin Ellis Jr. oval converts to road racing. He wants to do it all. In front of him, he watches as a brave send by Nicholas Rubilar. He squeaks on through Bernardo Faria for a second. Puff of smoke behind. But ultimately, it is the U-Race BR Redragon car that holds 9th. Parker White now up to 10th spot. And that's the racecraft. That's what you like to see. Development. Parker competes for Tony Kanan's Esports outfit in eNASCAR. Behind him, his teammate Michael Yanni bangs door with Leon Rundinger. Lauren Benzo doesn't get on through in the nick of time. He has to settle for the time being into the choo-choo train as Matti Siepela continues just to pummel in the laps at the front. We'll pick up what happened to Michael Yanni in that Apex Racing Team car. Quite interested to see. Oh, he went for a move. Was also covered off, though. Door was closing. Was the door closed? I think that might be the question to ask. And there's the rejoin. No major dramas there. Rearwards from Nicholas Rubilar. Probably a decent place to look. You can see there was definitely room on the outside of the black-red machine. And they both definitely went deep. Deep enough that Rudinger found himself inside of Rubilar for a sec. It's a long slog, this road to the World Championship. Qualifying series is just stage 1. So this is just the first stanza being ridden here. Michael Yanni, Sean Campbell, David Toth, Kane Halliburton, drivers like that all have second chances. Yanni's still out there. He's not in pit lane, I should clarify, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Parker White, someone to keep an eye on as well, because he's got to manage a potential playoff run in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It's top 10 in points, coming off a 3rd place finish at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, a 2nd place finish on the streets of Chicago. And it's all just building up nicely for him. How does that work alongside his preparations for this? We'll have to wait and see. It is 2 to go. Luke McEwen's closed that margin to within 2.5 of Matti Siepela, but it does not seem as though it's going to be enough at this point in time. Ultimately, it's good points for everybody in this top 5. Top split, second split. As long as you're top 5, I think you're relatively happy with the day's offering. Some of those drivers in that second split, excuse me, I was about to say bottom split, second split, might end up making their way forward into this split. We'll have to wait and see. It's Chris Lullum still trying to find a way past Carlos Fenalosa, who, after getting squirrely on that curb, finally concedes 6th spot to the red line, number 4. It's a little bit too little too late for Lullum to think about working his way on forward, but now there's still plenty with which to fight behind. Godino, you can hear getting close enough to almost scrape the wall on the entry to the corner. Another great shot of what must be a great place to sit, that Porsche Experience Center. Fenalosa locks that left front up. You can tell he's pushing, and pushing to the very limit, but it's at the front, where it's 1 lap to go for Matti Siepela in the first round of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup qualifying series. While he continues to run well, the Door Esports number 21, Dylan Burst. He's in all sorts of pain. Can Carlos Fenalosa hold on for 1 more lap? Maxence Godino's pushing the limits of the track and maybe pushed it too far. Oh, is that a slowdown penalty? Instantly jinxed to the side. Relieves his teammate Parker White of having to work his way on through. And now Parker has the opportunity to try and get past the U-Race BR Redragon entry. Faria looks defensive and uber defensive. Almost into the grass. Outside now for Rubilar, looking the long way around. Gets through on Parker Wright. Does not get through on Bernardo Faria. Still have a couple more corners with which to navigate. Rubilar goes aggressive, shoves Faria wide. Another driver maybe hits the incident limit. Parker White's through to 8th. Faria's in 9th. Godino's up to 10th now once again. Plenty to pick apart in the closing stages of this one. I get the sense the results may not be final until race controls had its say. It's at the front though where there's nothing to say, except Matti Siepela's on top at the Hockenheimring in the opening round of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup qualifying series. Luke McEwen grabs second, Dino Lombardi grabs third, and Josh Thompson will be relieved to grab some valuable points before he returns to the two-man efforts in the 24 hours of Spa. Again, race results are going to shift on that left-hand side as the incident point limits get calculated up and the penalties get dished down. Fun little battle at the Hockenheimring, that's for sure, but it was not at the front. Domination from Matti Siepela, who will have plenty of eyes turned his way. No team affiliation, at least for the time being. Sean Campbell says he doesn't like this car very much, or maybe it's just the curbs at this track. Difficult day for some, including his race clutch car. Let's take a look at those race results. 2.3 seconds the margin at the line as the Matti Siepela power number 7 crosses the line clear of those behind. It was a flawless victory from pole to victory lane. Luke McEwen up 3 spots in that Apex Racing team number 2, while Dino Lombardi drops down from second spot in qualifying to third, struggling a little bit on the longer run with tires. Josh Thompson 4th. We'll be quite happy with that one. Jakub Maciejewski 5th in front of Chris Lullum, who was able to get past the struggling Carlos Fenalosa, who banked 7th in front of Parker White, Bernardo Faria, Maxence Godino. That's your top 10. 11 to Michael Yanni, Lauren Benzo 12th, Rasmus Christiansen in front of Nicholas Verone, Cody Deeth, Neto Nascimento, Przemysław Lemonek, Dino Filipa, Martin Kajlic, and then David Bozga, the rest of the top 20. Nicholas Rubelar drops to 21st, Leon Rudinger into 22nd, Dylan Burr, Sean Campbell, David Toth, and Kane Halliburton amongst those drivers that unfortunately did not make it to the end. And so that's the look at the race results. Only of your top split of competition, let's not forget, because the 2 races, at least, that we had that paid out enough points, surely we'll have some of those second split drivers in the mix when these drivers go racing in 1 week's time. Where are they going racing in a week's time, you wonder? Well, they make their way over to the home of British motorsport. We land at Silverstone, not at the Grand Prix layout though, albeit we make our a trip over to the international layout. Always means that we're in for slightly different sort of racing, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how drivers fare out with that. We start, of course, with the start-finish line being at the same spot, but instead of working our way through the opening sector, we hook back around in towards the long run, in towards Luffield. Very different sort of a race track with which to go racing at. Unfortunately, we will not have coverage of that race here live on RaceSpotTV. I will be halfway around the world and watching on with great intrigue. We will be back at the Red Bull Ring. We will head into the Styrian Mountains and to the national layout for what should be an intriguing race on August the 5th. The first of 4 races that month before we find out the 15 drivers that will rise as Porsche contenders to work their way into the 35-car grid of the Porsche Contender Series, and of course then the chance to fight to become a World Championship competitor, get that license, and be part of the 2024 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. It is going to be a lot of fun. For now, though, it is time to bid you farewell. For RaceSpotTV, don't forget the coverage rolls on. iRacing 24 Hours of Spa, powered by Falcon, continues uninterrupted live on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. But here from the Hockenheimring, we bid you farewell. An intriguing opening round, one that surely will have the drivers talking in the aftermath. We leave with Matti Siepela, the winner of split number 1. Drivers have laid their intentions down on the road to the World Championship. Thank you so much for joining us here live on RaceSpotTV for our Juna Kanki party. We will see you in 2 weeks' time over at the Red Bull Ring. Congratulations to those that begun this long journey to becoming Porsche contenders, a road that ends on August the 26th.